everybody. How's it going? I am Jackson Case.
I am Alex Clay.
This is our podcast, our first episode, Hot Takes with God. So for the first couple episodes, we're going to be doing some sort of like mini informal interviews because we realize that we're not already famous, so you don't know the fuck we are.
Or why you should be listening.
And honestly, we're not entirely sure why you should be listening, but we know you should.
But we know you should.
So that's what this is. Today I'm going to be interviewing Alex, and then next week we'll do it the other way around.
Interviewing? Yeah.
So yeah, let's get fucking started. So Alex, I guess tell me a little bit, or I know this, but tell them a little bit about, I guess just like where you come from, and how that plays a part in where you are today.
Yeah, so basically the entire basis of my art stems from
Alex is a theater guy.
Yeah, like a theater
production,
starting to venture into film,
YouTube kind of stuff. Anyways, continue.
Anyway, yeah, the origin of my art definitely comes from acting theory, which originates with theater and theater acting, and then that. Yeah, I started theater in high school, which I literally fell into by accident.
How'd that happen?
In my high school, you were required to do at least one art, and going into high school, I was a part of the band in middle school, but in high school, you had to be, if you wanted to do concert band, you had to do marching band. I didn't want to do marching band. So originally I was taking like Bible history or something like that, which is really funny. Yeah. And then after like a week or two of me doing Bible history, which was funny because I was a freshman and it was like a senior class, so I was just in a bunch of seniors, they called me into the guidance room and were like, "Hey, can't do that." I was like, "Oh, well, why did you let me do that?" So I did theater because I couldn't draw, and I had been told by my family that I was a bad singer.
Crushing the dream.
Oh, crush it hard.
Crush that dream.
I enjoy singing.
I mean, I don't see how anyone, like, it's literally scientifically, like, it releases endorphins in your brain. Like,
yeah, it's so much fun. But yeah, so I was always told I was, like, tone deaf, which... later on in my life, I learned that no, I am not in fact actually tone deaf. They're just assholes. So I started doing theater, and yeah, pretty common thing in theater is theater bug. But what I guess really kept me there was the acting theory, and
so like explain a little bit about like what that is. Like, what does that mean? Because I don't really know what acting theory is.
Acting theory approaches everything from the preparation to the performance itself.
Okay.
And just the mental preparation, physical preparation. How do you approach the script? How do you approach yourself? How do you approach the characters? A lot of acting theory today, a lot of modern acting theory comes from Stanislavski. People outside theater don't realize that a lot of the theater today comes from Russia, back when the Tsars were around, because they, for whatever reason, had a love for the arts and theater, so it always was well funded in Russia, though they had their own problems with censoring. But what Stanislavski really brought about with his method was a connection to oneself, realism, which I can get into later, my own interpretation of modern realism. But it was attempt to find like truth, and also adding in like a rehearsal schedule, because before then it wasn't treated as something that you like went in day out, rehearsed it, and had a process.
So it's kind of like you got your lines and you learned them on your own, and then you performed.
Yeah.
Okay.
And back then, like, because I guess Stanislavski and that whole movement, which then turned into the group theater movement here in the States. Before that, it was like Shakespeare, it was Hamlet, it was these big productions that are still kind of like that idea of theater still kept alive through the musicals of today, these big spectacles, I like to call them, that aren't really focused on like the realism, the finding the truth in the moment, and focusing more on just the grandeur of it, which is where theater was for a very long time until Stanislavski started looking at it different. And it wasn't just him. There's a lot of other, like you can get in the Chekhovs, both of them, Anton, and then I forget what the other guy's name is, but Anton Chekhov was a playwright. His work is phenomenal. When you read it, it seems almost simple, and then you try to do it, and the layers upon layers of like in between the lines, it's insane. It's really hard. It's some hard theater to do, but it's definitely fun. I know where I'm rambling on about too.
So I guess
talking about acting,
so from high school, what like so I guess a lot of people the problem, especially like in my field of like more like fine art, visual art stuff, there's a huge propensity for people to, once that they're done, you know, whether they go to high school, whether they just do it in high school or college or whatever, but once they're done with the mandated schooling of it, that they just sort of stop. They just kind of get, you know, bogged down by the world or finances, or they just get lazy, like whatever it is. There's like, I mean, it's like a 90% like fall off rate. So like what has kept you, because I know you did theater at Chat State, so but past that, you know, like what's kept you in the game, I guess,
in the game of
theater. Just specifically theater, not so much the stuff you've started working on more recently.
The side stuff. I've always felt like it was one of the better formats for my creativity, in the sense of it's really easy for me to view it as just a big puzzle, especially when approaching it from like a producing standpoint of I'm putting together full productions, instead of when you're approaching it as an actor, it's kind of definitely a different, I don't view it as much as a puzzle in the grander scheme as it is a puzzle within. But theater is just one of those art forms that it's been around for so long that some people can feel like it's been explored completely, but it's something that I believe has only just been like scraped on what you really can do, and bringing the audience. Our roommate Joe and one of my collaborators in Warehouse Theater Company that we've done a couple shows in. A lot of his focus is on making people come to like accept the reality of them being in the physical, like they're watching it. and the realism in that.
So the sort of breakdown between suspension of disbelief
Yeah,
and the actual
yeah.
thing that's happening.
Yeah, because you're actually there. You're actually in the theater watching it. So to completely ignore that isn't being truthful to it. And that's kind of how he approaches it. And I think it's really interesting way. I definitely get more off on just making people feel emotions. There's to make someone cry when you wanted them to cry. There's certainly elation from that, being able to do that and trying to, I guess, break it down into a science. That's part of my drive with the theater. Now it's just, yeah, theater. Theater's weird. Theater's weird. Because it's like some projects I'll have a real, like, I'm trying to get emotions out of people drive to it, and
Mm-hmm.
other ones it's the project's bringing emotions out of myself, and that's the only driving force.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, one of the big things they taught us, was basically like, not exactly like the opposite, but it's sort of, that you should make work that is like raw and presents your emotions, or is like something that you feel strongly about, and other people will find common ground there, whereas like creating something with the sole intention of having it be for someone else produces subpar work in my field, which is like I say, like fine art. I'm mostly in photography, just to throw that out there. But but yeah, that's a big thing that they teach us, is like that you should never make like the not that it won't be good, but the best work you'll make is the work that's important to you. So that's interesting that you say that one of the ways you go about formulating a project.
But it also very much depends on the project and who I'm collaborating with. Because the thing with theater is, like, it's a collaboration. You don't have a choice. You, like, unless you're doing a one-man show, like, it's a collaboration. You don't have.
I mean, I'd say I mean, I don't know, in the most broad terms, I mean, you can't have art without it being. I mean, it's a collaboration between artist and audience at the very base of levels. We kind of ignore that, I think, a lot, and like, I don't know if that's like a good thing or a bad thing, to ignore the audience and focus on the self, because again, like going back to what I was saying, like that's kind of how I was taught to make work, is to like you have to think about the audience, obviously, to a point, but at the end of the day, they're gonna draw whatever conclusions they draw, and you just have to be happy with the work you made and let the pieces kind of fall where they may. But I feel like that's a little bit different with theater, because like, yeah, like you can interpret Romeo and Juliet, just to give a broad example, as like a tragic story or a, weirdly heartwarming story, or you can kind of view it as like a comedy, but like at the end of the day, like the elements and the feelings are all the same. Like nothing changes about the work necessarily, and you're pretty much gonna, I would say most people feel sad after watching Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah, that's
so that's, whereas like
either sad or disappointed.
Right. Whereas like, people go and view a Kandinsky or, some photograph or whatever, and all draw these like myriad of different conclusions. I feel like theater tends to at least try to be more focused, or like regular. You know, like even when you see like a modernized Romeo and Juliet, it's still the same story elements. It's just done where they look like, you know, construction workers and something like that, instead of like medieval, whatever they are, rich people. But it seems like that theater, like the meat of the play, is trying to get the same thing across to you every time.
It depends on the play.
Yeah.
There's...
See, I only have really experience with like what you guys have done at Warehouse.
Yeah.
And what I saw in high school, which is Shakespeare.
The Shakespeare,
Which I love, but like I got exposed to some like performance art, but I have a hard time figuring out the line between performance art and theater.
Yeah, that's
like a whole. I mean, we could spend a whole podcast on that. I think.
That. Oh, 100% where the line is. If I had to put it like in text, the line is probably, do you have a playwright? If you have a playwright, it's probably theater. If you don't have a playwright, then it's performance art. That's how I would approach it.
I mean, that makes sense. Like a script makes it a play.
Yeah, that's how I would go about it.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, yeah. I don't know, there's some weird people that probably cross that line, though.
Oh, yeah.
There's exceptions to every rule, I guess.
There's exceptions to every rule.
But yeah, I mean, that's probably the easiest
like there's
line to draw.
One of the most influential art pieces I've ever seen was a retelling of the Seven Samurai done by one man, and he only used mass and the noises he created with his own body.
That's pretty cool.
And no words whatsoever. It was like an hour-long performance. Brought me to tears. Made me laugh my ass off.
See, that feels more like...
And that, like, there's no playwright. He came up with that.
That seems like theater that put its toes over the line and dipped its feet.
Yeah, that's where there's...
Because there's a woman who's definitely a performance artist, but has these really, like, more long form for performance art, which is basically just longer than like a few minutes. Pieces that are like very much like have all these like different changing environments, and like may not be super hardline scripted, but like she's definitely not just coming up with it all off the dome. So someone wrote it down. So like those elements like make me think theatrical, but does that necessarily make it theater?
Now, with the guy I was talking about, he was using, I forget what the theater style is. It's the Eastern theater method, which Eastern theater methods are really cool. They have a lot to do with the body, really big. It's almost like absurdism, but bigger, with like a weird tradition add to it, like kabuki theater and stuff like that. I mean, beautiful way to tell stories, which is all theater is, in my opinion, which I've had to argue that point with other people, is that we're just storytellers here to tell the story. Other people focus on different things, but that's always been like just telling a story. That's the basis of theater.
I mean, yeah, it's kind of the heart of it, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, like pretty much. I mean, I would say it's probably pretty hard to have theater without some form of narrative.
Yeah.
Even if it's not necessarily like in order or like comprehensible, but like there's something there, I imagine.
Yeah, and then you have some plays that are like vignettes that are just where there might be an overarching like theme that are kind of connected, but there's no like overarching narrative.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a small one, like small many narratives.
So yeah, but getting back to what is theater and what is performance art, when there's just exceptions to the rule. I think it's...
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Like, I think anyone that gets a little too high up on themselves on what's theater and what's not, it's silly.
I mean, it's just one of those impossible questions.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, it's just like, I ask myself constantly, like, you know, why is this photograph art and this one's not? And it's a lot of just about context, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, I could take some, like, you know, billboard advertisement for some Joe Schmuck for senator and turn that into art, but it's not necessarily art on that billboard.
Yeah.
Which is a weird thing.
It's a weird thing.
And it seems like it's kind of particular to, well, okay, we'll get into that.
More
week.
on yours.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll get into that next
we'll
week.
get more on that on yours.
So I guess my
sure.
next question, since it seems like we're going chronologically here. So in the present, you've got the theater, you got the warehouse theater company. You put on Shadow Kids.
Put on Shadow Kids.
You put on
Death of Salesman.
Death of Salesman. What is... I mean, are you guys... I know that some things are kind of getting shaken up right now, and, you know, one of the guys is moving, planning to move in the, December?
December. Early December, yeah.
Are you guys out there, like, on, like, socials and, like, YouTube and stuff? Like, do you have this stuff up? Do you plan on doing anything altogether, like one last sort of hurrah before things are...
One weird thing with theater and theater people in general, there's this weird stigma with filming theater. A lot of the hardline theater people will never fucking do it.
So it's about the experience?
It's about experience, because that's the art form. That's one of the core elements to, like, theater, and a lot of people will argue this, but my view on it is that the fact that it's there, then it's gone.
Yeah, I mean, it's ephemeral. It's special. It's something that it's different from night to night, you know, even slightly.
Immensely so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what separates theater from film. Like, I get that.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's a lot of people that are anti-filming it. We do have a film of both. Well, with the second, with Death of a Salesman, we unfortunately were we had this grandiose plan. Well, this is COVID era.
Yeah.
For everyone out there.
Yeah, this was just a couple months ago.
Nice. It was literally like 3 months ago is when we finished Death of a Salesman, and our hope was that we were going to start it, get it going, and by the time we finished it, COVID was going to be over.
And here we are.
And here we are, 3 months later.
October,
still dealing with it, and we will for a few more months. At least, if not a few more years.
It's actually picking up.
It's actually picking up right now.
Yeah.
Which is nice. But we were planning on quarantine to be lifted. People were wanting to get out of their house, and boom, bang, here's our show. So people were going to come, and that didn't happen. So then when we started getting closer to date, realized we're not really wanting to do a live performance. We were looking at one point, we were going to make the warehouse the probably second safest
yeah, I mean, building. I know for a while you were looking at just doing really small, socially distanced shows.
Well, even more than that. We were looking at small, socially distanced. We were looking at getting, I forget, UVC lights or something, like germ-killing lights, and that emit ozone, that kill germs. And we were going to, before the show, have it going, kill everything, and then during intermission, we were going to clear the room and turn it on, kill everything again. But it came down to we didn't want to have to police our own family and friends with social distancing and masks and stuff. So we decided to cancel all public performances, and then we attempted to stream it, like live stream it. But the estate would not let us do that.
That's the estate of the playwright.
Yes, of the playwright, not the publishing company. Publishing company was more than willing to let us stream it. They're perfectly happy to have that happen because they just want money, which we're 3 months out still waiting for our money back from the publishing company.
Wow.
For our, I think it was five nights is what we were going to do. But anyway, we ended up filming scenes of it for educational purposes. Because it is illegal to film plays, and you should never do it without the written consent of the estate. But you can.
Unless they're dead.
But no, even if they're dead, someone inherits that.
Well, it's like after like a certain amount of years.
A certain amount of years, yeah, it becomes
like,
public
50 or
domain.
something?
Yeah, it's like
like Shakespeare's public domain.
Yeah, but it has to be, it's like 50 or 70 years after the original playwright dies is when it becomes.
When did this motherfucker die?
Like 40 years ago.
Ah.
Yeah, I know. We still got some time. Yeah. But what you can do is film some scenes for educational purposes.
Loopholes, people. Loopholes.
Loopholes.
We are big fans of loopholes in this coffee shop.
So we did that for our actors to give them some reels because they put in excellent work. And the play itself, I want to talk about it because we were planning on doing some kick-ass stuff with it. It was theater in the round. The audience was going to be on a second level above the action, above the main stage. So they're literally looking down on it, and then our space is so unique because we're in this warehouse that it's got this second level, and it just goes out. It's just like this shoebox, and we had the set basically in 3 sections. We had the house, we had scaffolding making up the border of the house, then we had the backyard, which was huge, and Death of Salesman, and then we had the construction site far out, and we made it look really good. I mean, you took the photos.
Yeah, no, I mean, I thought it looked good.
Yeah,
it looked really good.
It looked good. Not as good as we were hoping.
I mean, it's,
but
unless you've got thousands of dollars to throw into something, I mean, it's going to be...
I mean, we spent decent we put some money into it. But we were planning on, in the beginning, we had this composer in North Carolina. He was going to come down to, we're here in Chattanooga, Tennessee. He was going to come down here and basically put a band together, and he was going to compose some like music, and it was some jazz music, and it was going to be really cool, but he ended up not being able to do it. I forget exactly all the reasons, but we had that. We had this costume designer from UTC, local college, was going to work on it. All these things, but COVID just kind of made everything really difficult.
It does that.
Yeah, it did that. So, but really cool. Still proud of it. Still proud of the work we put in. We literally wrecked a car. Opening the show. We wreck a car. Full car. We'll say that again. We wreck a car. We rigged it to drive by itself. It runs into a wall.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, we were going to do that live every single night. Every single night we were going to wreck a car into a wall.
Pretty cool.
It's pretty cool. No one else is doing that.
Fucking COVID.
But fucking COVID. So that was Death of Salesman. And then I want to talk a little bit about Shadow Kids just because of the organization.
Yeah, I mean, we should get them a little bit of...
Yeah, a little bit
of... If anyone
of
actually listens
publicity.
to this.
Yeah, if anyone ever actually listens to this. Lost in the Field Productions. It's a theater production company whose sole purpose is to raise awareness for foster kids and their struggles. And their founder, Keith, I can't remember his last name, but his name is Keith. That's how I know him. He was a foster kid that had a real bad go of it, ended up aging out of the system and then going into the military, and he's living the life he is now, spreading spreading the news about just the struggle. And we had the privilege of being able to take his story, Shadow Kids, and we were able to bring it down here in Chattanooga. It was really powerful.
So just for some context, a couple of people, or one of our roommates, Joe, we talked about earlier, and the other member of the warehouse, Jared, they actually a few years ago went up to New Jersey and lived for essentially a season, a play season, and they helped put on and act in Shadow Kids when Keith produced it up there.
Yeah.
And then we're given wanted to, and then we're given the permission to put on the show themselves down here, and kind of change things up a little bit. And it was, I mean, as someone who saw it and is not, well versed necessarily in theater, I mean, it was phenomenal, and definitely like heart-wrenching, and powerful, and definitely, I mean, I knew that the foster system was pretty messed up, but it's a little bit different, knowing that fact and then seeing that fact played out in front of you. And yeah, I mean, I would definitely give them a look up. I know they're on Facebook. I don't know if you can necessarily find clips of the play anywhere. I'm sure there's probably some.
There is a film version of it. I don't know where it is. We weren't necessarily. The filming of it was very much dropped on us last minute. We weren't actually planning on filming it at all, but
there is one out there somewhere.
But there is one.
Maybe connected to Lost in the Fields Facebook.
Yeah,
maybe. I don't know.
Might be there.
But yeah, if it's an issue you're interested in, or passionate about, or want to learn more about, I would definitely look them up. I'm sure that if you ever wanted to have any questions or anything, I'm sure that they would be super happy to talk to you about it.
And I do want to preference this: if you are part of the foster care system, you probably won't be the most supportive of this company and what they show, because they definitely show the bad side of fostering, which isn't everywhere, and those people definitely do put in the work, and they really are heroes in their own right. But there are people that take advantage of the system,
and this is specifically
the story we're
this
telling.
One person's
experience. I mean, he lived it. He literally lived it.
It's a true story. I mean,
it's a true story. And it's awful what he went through.
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting chills and kind of sad thinking about it. But definitely look that up. Definitely look them up. But the foster system. Yeah, most of the time, we hope that people are in it for the right reasons. But again, just like with everything, there are bad seeds out there. So it's not meant to offend or aggravate or poke blame the foster system. A lot of people do a lot of good work through that system, but just as there are there are hunters and there are poachers and there are bad guys and good guys and whatever, there are people out there who find ways to take advantage of the system for money and don't treat the kids so good, and that's what this story is about. So just a little warning there. Whether you're involved in the system or just a little squeamish, it gets kind of intense.
Oh, yeah, it definitely got intense in a few parts.
Yeah. So I mean, it's Anyway, so I guess back to that's what you guys have kind of done together in the past.
What we might do.
Are you looking to do anything in the next month or two? Or
have a couple projects. Now the thing is, any live performance, any big show, production, we're just kind of canceled until further notice. And we got, we have members and they've got to continue on their life, and they can't.
You keep talking. I gotta pee.
Okay. They've got to, continue with their life, continue with their studies, and strive for the best possible outcome in their life, and we have to support them in every step in that. And so, but as far as productions that we got, we're trying to film some monologues. We have some really powerful monologues. One from A Steady Rain, which is about a couple cops, and there's a really powerful monologue in there that we're trying to get made. What else? We were going to make a music video, collaborating with the the cross-dressing community in Chattanooga, because there's a really big community that does that, and they're really kick ass. We're gonna do, I think it's the opening to Legally Blonde, and we're gonna have them like lip singing it and leading us through our theater space, and that's an idea we were throwing around, but it definitely seems like the company itself is kind of coming to a close, which is unfortunate, but it's hard to keep a theater company going in COVID times. Also, it's just, I mean, it's hard, and I mean, I'm 23, and like everyone else in the company is roughly around that age. It's just kind of hard to get people our age to commit like 5 years, and that's what you would really need to get a company just chugging along. So we were able to get 2 good productions out. Wish we could have gotten a couple more, but I mean, definitely with circumstance with COVID, it made it really hard.
Yeah. You know what I was just thinking about in there? I wonder if Joe Rogan ever takes pee breaks.
Pee breaks in the middle of his podcast?
I mean,
probably.
Think about it. Like, the shortest ones are like 2 hours. Like, the Duncan Trussell one they put out like a month ago was like 5
hours. Yeah.
Like, how is he not going to the bathroom? Like, they're like drinking and stuff and like smoking.
I think
he
does sometimes.
I feel like I've never heard.
I feel like I've seen him go.
Yeah.
I've definitely seen guests go.
Maybe they do an ad break. They don't really do ads,
They don't do ads, yeah.
Which is kind of crazy.
I mean, he's so big at this point. Like, I think he opens with them, and then he might close with them, but actually, I don't even think he does that.
He doesn't.
He just has a deal. He's just getting paid.
I don't know. When did that podcast blow up like that? Because it wasn't...
It's been going for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, he's got thousands of episodes out.
Yeah, he's over 1,000 episodes, so...
And he used to do, like, I mean, he was talking to Ron White in that podcast I was listening to, and he used to do, like, 3 or 4 a day.
Yeah, he has. He definitely has.
Like, not used to be, like, when he was in California, like, he did, like, that every day was, like, 2 or 3 podcasts. Yeah. Like, that's crazy. Now I think it's a little...
Oh, yeah, especially with him moving out.
To Texas.
But, I mean, he's still pumping them out.
That's crazy.
That's crazy.
I feel like it was just, like, one day, the Joe Rogan experience was just everywhere. Like, everybody... all collectively was like...
Yeah, I don't know what was the first one I saw.
I don't know what the first one I saw was, but I know my buddy used to watch them, like, all the time. And it was just like,
How did I get in Joe Rogan?
Like, that's the thing, is that everyone just sort of like...
Like, Bert, when the machine thing came out, I guess?
Yeah. Mine was before that, probably. I think I used to listen to him with my buddy because we would watch just like educational content. Like we would watch like that would be our break from like political commentary shows, was like watching Joe Rogan talk to like Neil deGrasse Tyson about some shit that was way over our heads, but it's Joe Rogan, so he makes it like
somewhat acceptable.
Yeah, like you can kind of... He like reinterprets. I think we're getting super off topic here, but
that's so. But I mean, it's Joe Rogan. We're doing a podcast.
We're doing a podcast. That's on topic.
That's on topic.
But like, he does a really good job of like taking something that's like immensely complicated, and like asking the right questions that like any normal person would ask.
Yeah.
Which is why I think one of the reasons that he did get so popular.
Oh yeah, because
He's
he's
just got really interesting people on there all the time.
yeah.
And it's like a huge variety of, I mean, it's insane.
Oh.
All the different
Yeah,
people.
he's talking to anyone and everyone. He's looking at every viewpoint there is.
Yeah.
And
I mean, he's talking to anybody that wants to, basically.
seems that way. I hope he's able to get Trump on there.
That would be nuts. I
That'd
would
be
love
crazy.
that, because I just want to, like, how would that go? Like, I feel like at a certain point, like, that'd be crazy. That'd be cool. Yeah. Anyway, I think that's all the questions I have for you, unless you got something else on your mind that you wanted to talk about a little bit.
Talked about the last couple projects. Rambled about acting theory, but no, I don't think anyone understands it anymore than at the beginning of it. I mean, every single method has its own, like, it's so vast. Like, the difference between Laban, which has to do with, like, shapes. It has literal shapes that, like, you have pencil, you have circle, you have square, and by using gestures and naturally coming to that kind of shape, you're exuding this emotion. At least that's my interpretation of what I think Laban is, and I'm probably wrong. I'm not a Laban expert, but I've studied it some. And then the difference between, like, Meisner and
So, like, is that method acting? Is that like an acting theory?
yeah, method acting comes from Stanislavski, which is the basis of most modern acting methods, which has to do with your emotional truth and, like, in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Now, hardcore method acting has to do with actually, like, becoming the character and living it. Like, if your character is supposed to be, like, living off the land, you go live off the land. That's the extremes of the method